Hi everybody, welcome back. I have a couple of announcements for you today. We have our house churches still happening and we have 2 service times. Our first one's at 10 a.m. and our second one's at 5 p.m. Following this month on October 24th, we have our team night. It's on a Friday, you can't miss it, it's gonna be great. There'll be food, laughter, we get to be with our community, and what is better than that? And then the following day at 9 a.m., our 2 house churches will be coming together. Our 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. will be combining, and we will be one church at 9 a.m. And it'll just be great. And then,
hey guys, it's Nelson. I just want to invite you guys to share in becoming a partner with us and giving to Coin Church. We have a few ways you guys can give. You can text coin, the word coin, K-O-I-N, 77977. And there's actually 2 other ways you can give other than that. You can give at coinchurch.org, or you can give on the Coin app. We just really believe in just putting our faith right at the forefront of our minds, and we just believe that if we can trust God in the little things, that He's just gonna, in our finances, in our lives, or in anything, that He's gonna bless us and bless you in return. So we just want to invite you guys, and we just hope you guys have a great time. And I'm sorry I talked too much. Bye. Bye.
Welcome in, everybody. Hope you're doing well. So grateful that we continue to get to have these conversations. And if you've missed last week's conversation, we had our once a month gathering where we all gathered together, and we had a conversation around the person of Elijah and Elisha, and really in the story of 2 Kings chapter 2, in verses 1 through 14, we find ourselves at the latter part of Elijah's life. And there's this interesting conversation that I want to bring and present to you, and it's this premise of being called to more, and how I really do believe that there is something within us that wants more, that desires more, that is called to more, and that I believe is the voice of God. So if you have your Bibles, turn to 2 Kings chapter 2, and we're going to be reading verses 1 through 14. I'm not going to read all those verses. That's a lot to unpack, but I want to read to you the latter part, starting at verse 10. It says, verse 9. It says, when they had crossed Elijah and Elisha, Elisha said to Elisha, tell me, what can I do before I'm taken from you? Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit, Elisha replied. You have asked a difficult thing, Elisha said, yet if you see me when I am taken from you, it will be yours. Otherwise, it will not. As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire appeared and separated the 2 of them. And Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha saw this and he cried, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel. And Elisha saw him no more. Then he took out his garment and he tore it into 2. Elisha then picked up Elijah's cloak that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. He took the cloak that had fallen from Elijah and struck the water with it. Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah? He asked. And when he struck the water, it divided to the right and to the left, and he crossed over. You see, there's something interesting about Elisha is that he had the audacity to ask Elijah, his mentor, his rabbi, in the passage would say his master. He had the audacity to say, I know you are leaving, and as you leave, I want to ask you something. Can I have double of what you have? You see, Elijah brought fire down from heaven. He brought water, rain down from heaven. Elijah had miracle after miracle, and so many people respected the power that God had given him. And so Elisha was his predecessor. He was the one that would walk beside him. He was the one that was his armor bearer, so to speak. He was with him wherever he went. And so Elisha said, I want a double portion of your spirit. And you see, Elisha, after Elijah went up to heaven, he wasn't 100% sure if he got it. As he picked up Elijah's cloak, he struck the water with it, and there he realized, as right before he struck it, he said, "Where is the God of Elijah?" In other words, God, I have been following Elijah really because I've been following you. Are you going to be the same God to me as you were to him? I followed him, God, really to follow you. And he asked this question, where is the God of Elijah? And then he realizes that God stepped in, he intervened, and he gave Elisha the double portion that he was asking. Something interesting, though, in that conversation that Elisha had with Elijah is, as you look at the story of what had happened and all the different moments that Elisha said, "No, I'm going with you. For as long as God shall live and you shall live, I will be with you." And there's that moment that, you see, Elijah could have just played it safe. After Elijah left, he could have just said, "Okay, well, that's it. I'm not sure if I got the double portion. I'm not sure." But he made a decision to say, "You know what, God? I'm no longer living my life on this borrowed faith of Elijah. I'm stepping into my own faith. I'm stepping into what you are calling me into. I'm not going to live my life based off of a pastor's faith or based off of a mentor's faith or based off of a friend's faith. I'm not going to just be encouraged or just listen to podcasts or read books." And so often, a lot of us, we live our lives on borrowed faith. You see, there must come a time when we stop getting carried by other people's faith and we have our own. There has to come a time where you know who God is because he is your God and not just someone else's. From Gilgal to Bethel to Jordan, to Jericho to Jordan, the prophets were saying something. They were saying, you know that the road, the end of the road is here. It's right in front of you, Elisha. Why don't you just call it quits? Why don't you just call it in? But something interesting takes place in this story, and something that I want to bring to you, to your attention. You see, so often I hear this, well, God closed the door. If God shuts the door, then I won't move forward. Or it's apparent that God shut the door. If you look at this story, Elisha could have said that in Gilgal. When the prophets told him, "Do you not know the end is near for you?" Elisha could have easily said, "Yeah, you're right. The end is near for me. I've been following Elijah. He's coming to an end." Elijah even tells Elisha, "It's okay. You can stay behind. You can live your life, and it's okay. You don't have to continue to follow with me, Elisha." But he decides to move forward, even though the prophet said stay, even though Elijah said stay, he decides to move forward. And really, I wonder how many times God has invited me to stay where I am because I'm not so ready to move forward. I wonder how many times I've said, "God shut the door," but he really didn't. He just needed me to press in and to push forward and to refuse to stay behind, refuse to just stand in front of the house and say, "Well, it's just a closed door." And the reason I bring that up is because this is a perfect story to express to you, to remind you that it's not always like that, the closed doors. It's not always like, it shouldn't be this borrowed faith. We should step into incredible imagination and incredible determination and so much zeal towards God that we are fighting for the future with God, that we realize that God is so much further ahead and that wherever God goes, I want to go. Instead, we can say, "No, I'm just going to play it safe. No, the door was closed." But Elisha chose not to use that language. And I find it really interesting that, you see, Elijah told him it's okay. The prophets told him it's okay. And you have to ask yourself this question. Why did God allow Elijah as his mouthpiece to inform Elisha, to encourage Elisha, it's okay, you can stay in Gilgal. You can stay in Jericho. You can stay in Bethel. It's okay, Elijah. Why did God allow Elijah to encourage him to stay when God knew that in the future, Elisha would receive a double portion of Elijah's spirit? Why would God allow that? And it forces me to sit back and to think back and to process how God works. You see, I believe that God has created in you a opportunity to choose, to fight and push forward or to stay behind, to take the bench or to say, I'm in to play, I'm in to fight, I'm in to move forward. And I just want to encourage you with this. God isn't going to force you to move forward with Elijah, so to speak, or he's not going to encourage you to stay behind. He's happy with whatever choice you choose, but just know we could be missing out on a life of double portion if we choose to play it safe. And you see, the reason that I've titled this Call to More is because I really do believe that there can be so many voices that tell you you can't do it. So many voices that tell you you're not good enough. There can be so many voices that say you're not smart enough, that you're not talented enough, that you don't know enough of the Bible, or you don't have enough to give or to present to people. You don't have enough under your belt. And there can be hundreds of voices that tell you no, but there only has to be one voice that says yes. And there's one voice that I'm always trying to listen to, and it's the voice of God. And at least in this story, God is saying there is a double portion on the other end. But you have to move forward. You have to refuse to stay behind. You see, I shared this on Sunday. You want to know if you're hearing God. You want to know if you've ever heard the voice of God. And here it is. Will be this voice inside of you that says there is more, that you are called to more, that you're called out of depression into hope, that you're called out of brokenness into wholeness. There is something inside of you, and I would argue it's the voice of God that says you have more in you. So don't listen to the voices that say God didn't choose you. Don't listen to anyone that say God can't use you. Don't listen to anyone that would say God can't do great things through you, because He is the voice that will always call you to more. And so I want to encourage you with that as we have conversation around this. What is that more He's calling you to? What are some doors that you said God shut, but He really didn't because we chose to stay behind? And what will we do with that type of reality? What type of faith is God calling us to move towards in action? I love you. I'm praying for you. I hope this encourages you. I hope you have good conversation around this. And we'll see you next week.